Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Maloney, and I am the Managing Director of GEDI, the Gateway for Enterprises to Discover Innovation here at the University of Waterloo. GEDI is the university's corporate engagement office. So before we begin, we at the University of Waterloo first want to acknowledge that we live and work on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. So I'm very pleased you could join us for this month's 30 Minutes with the GEDI Exchange webinar. The GEDI Exchange supports the success of startups and scale-ups affiliated with the University of Waterloo, and it actively promotes collaboration among its members, which are both large and small companies, as well as the University of Waterloo. So for today, we're focusing on the theme, the network effect, how organized collaboration and teaming accelerates progress and commercial success. So to talk about that, I'd like to welcome Bruce Wallace from the Nuclear Innovation Institute and Bob Karaluk from CEO Peer-to-Peer. And in a moment, each will introduce themselves before addressing that theme. This month is also going to be a little bit different in that, just like Bob and Bruce, GEDI also has its own network, the GEDI Exchange, which is this webinar series, as well as an entire program. And so I'll be posing the questions as always each month, but I also get a chance to pitch in and answer them too. So that should be fun. Then at the end, we're going to go through some audience questions. And like last month, again, we're going to experiment with a slightly different format to give the panelists a few more minutes to get into greater depth on the topic. So the panelist portion is now 30 minutes in length, and it's followed by an optional 10-minute Q&A, which I hope you can stay on to join us for that. And throughout the webinar, just please feel free to send your questions via the Q&A in the bottom right corner of your window, and just select all panelists before sending. So this event is being recorded and soon will be uploaded to GEDI's YouTube channel. So now I'd like to turn it over to our guests to introduce themselves. I've already introduced myself, so let's perhaps start with you, Bruce. If you could tell us about yourself and the Nuclear Innovation Institute, or NII for short, and then Bob to introduce himself and the CEO Peer-to-Peer. Bruce, over to you.
Terrific. Thanks, Bridget. I really appreciate the invitation to be here. And hi, Bob. Looking forward to this. It'll be fun. Just off the top, it's almost like my usual disclaimer. I don't come out of the nuclear industry. I'm certainly not an engineer, and I always beg for no math questions, because my background actually I come from an industry that has its own reputational challenges, to say. I was a journalist for most of my career, living and working across North America, Europe, and Asia. But I came to this job via sort of public policy and media perspectives on the energy and environmental challenges that we all face. That's my background. And when I left journalism in about 2015, I did some time with the Ontario government as an advisor to the Minister of Economic Development, and that was the area that looked after the innovation ecosystem, of which Ontario, as you all know, has a very extensive network of companies and research institutions. So I learned about it there, got to understand it, got to work on the inside of it, and then spent some time working with one of the federal superclusters, the Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster, which is also about networks, which is also about improving sort of connections between companies that are in the same areas and working across sectors to make better connections, to have a better understanding of the assets and expertise that we have here. So that was the background that I brought to the Nuclear Innovation Institute, which is an independent, not-for-profit entity that has private sector backing, and we were capitalized by private sector companies. There's no public money involved in this. And the goal really is to increase the pace of innovation in nuclear. As you all know, as we all try to figure out how in the world we're going to turn our economies into net zero economies, there's clearly not just an important, but there's an essential role for nuclear power in that energy mix going forward. But to do so, nuclear has to be more innovative, it has to be more efficient, it has to be more cognizant of costs and environmental impacts. And that's what we see our role doing that. And again, but playing a broker's role as a convener and a connector.
Right. Thanks so much, Bruce. So Bob, over to you.
Thanks, Bridget. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to this opportunity to share with fellow GEDI members and those around the world. So yeah, I'm Bob Karaluk, University of Waterloo computer science alumni. Worked at multinationals, including AT&T, Fujitsu, and Tidco, which was a joint venture out of Silicon Valley between Cisco, Yahoo, Sun Microsystems, and our parent company, Reuters. We subsequently did an IPO on NASDAQ, and it was a fun roller coaster ride where the company peaked at about 28 billion market cap. Since then, moved back to Waterloo, such an amazing community and tech ecosystem. And I'm currently CEO and founder of CEO-P2P Inc., which is an ultra-lean startup supporting and growing the scale-up ecosystem executive community of 450 CEOs, founders, executives, and community champions spanning over 100 scale-ups between $1 million and $500 million in revenue or funding, and our ecosystem partners. So we've hosted over 65 CEO peer-to-peer business roundtables since we launched in September 2019, including 6 CEO peer-to-peer unicorn events. And our CEO peer-to-peer community is targeting to grow to 1,000 members by the end of our second season in August. This brain trust within our ecosystem and community share best practices, challenges, and experiences scaling their organizations. The CEO peer-to-peer member scale-up solutions and services are building blocks to accelerate innovation and drive growth in the Toronto-Waterloo corridor and the Canadian tech ecosystem. Thanks.
Great, super. Well, fantastic, Bob and Bruce. Really nice to be introduced to both of your network. So why don't let's start with the basics. So I'd like to ask, what need were you trying to address, and why adopt this network approach as a foundation for solving it? So maybe Bruce, again, I'll start with you.
Sure, absolutely. The nuclear industry is interesting because it exists in a bit of a psychological and physical ghetto. Most people aren't aware of it. And probably most people would be surprised to discover that nuclear produces 60% of Ontario's electricity and all of its emissions free. It's a big number and it's an important contribution, obviously, but it's something that happens sort of away from the action. You don't really know where those plants are. But it's also a psychological problem for the industry because it's been very inward looking for a long time. So the challenge for us was to sort of break out of that silo, to do what's happening in industries everywhere, where you're having greater and greater convergence and people moving across. Manufacturing isn't simply defined as the process of building things anymore. It reaches out and touches upon all sorts of other areas and new sectors. So the key thing for us was to build a network that would connect nuclear and the terrific work that's going on here into new emerging technologies so we can discover new ways of doing things. So how do we connect nuclear to the robotics industry? How do we connect it to all the great work going on in artificial intelligence and machine learning? How do we make sure that additive manufacturing is incorporated into the processes that go on inside of nuclear? It's really about crossing those what were formerly boundaries and connecting nuclear into things that are broader. And in that sense, we're trying to solve horizontal challenges here, challenges that affect not just one company but all of them. And what we've discovered, of course, is that many of the problems that companies in nuclear face are similar to problems that are faced in aerospace or automotive manufacturing or deep ocean technology. There are all kinds of other places that wrestle with many of the same problems, particularly in a digital world. So that's the importance of a network for us, is that it kind of breaks us out of any concept of silo, both psychological and physical, and connects us more broadly into all of the tremendous innovations that are going on in other sectors.
Excellent. That's very interesting, Bruce. And maybe I'll just insert a little bit about the GEDI exchange here and then over to you, Bob. But so, just stepping back generally, what is GEDI? I mentioned it's the corporate engagement unit of the university, and it's been in existence about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And I've been with the university 10 years myself. Prior to that, my whole career was with the IBM software lab, but always supporting customers or channel partners through North America or even globally. So always managing large technical teams and technical projects. So there's, I guess, here I'm straddling both worlds. But the purpose of GEDI is really, it's a central door into the university. It's a kind of a comprehensive portal, into the surrounding ecosystem as well. And so what we found over time is corporations were coming to us saying, we want to be introduced to, we'd love to meet startups in the community, and especially startups or scale-ups, or even earlier than that, technology ready to be commercialized. We'd like to meet all of that's coming out of the university. And hence the GEDI exchange was born. But second, just generally GEDI as an entity itself, the second really, mandate is really to support these large, significant pan-university, multifaceted partnerships with the university. And we have client managers to support that. So, for example, Rogers and BlackBerry are examples of 2 partnerships. But so as I said, more and more we realized large corporations want to meet these scale-ups. We realized as we started to talk to all of these startups and scale-ups that they've got, we should be introducing them because they have common needs, or the other may not know, one may not know about the other, and they clearly there's some potential there to do something together, partner and sometimes address, as you said, various industries. So really the exchange then we launched only really about 6 or 8 months ago. And it's really going very, very well. It's growing weekly, but it's really about connecting those companies with each other and then with the large corporations, but all at the center of that is the university. So that's really the unique factor, I would say, and of this network, and no cost to join the exchange in most cases. So Bob, over to you.
Thanks, Bridget. Yeah, there's been many different peer-to-peer groups over the years and decades, and we're very excited to be invited to join the University of Waterloo Gateway for Enterprise to Discover and Innovation, their GEDI exchange, as part of our continued growth towards collaboration. Over those decades, there's been many peer-to-peer groups in the Waterloo region, in the Toronto Waterloo corridor, and I started out in one of those groups organized by Communitech, and we've subsequently had spun off a startup that is focused on these scale-ups. So the million plus startup subset. So some people consider Facebook a startup, but we distinguished the lower end, more initial companies that with ideas and haven't yet maybe got to as much revenue or funding, to the $1 million dollar mark is the threshold we've used, and so that was an interest to connect the executives because there's say 100 CEOs of 100 scale-ups in the area, but many of them only knew certain subsets. So we wanted to find ways to share the best practices, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that initially started with in-person meetings, and kicked that off with monthly events, rotating to different locations. And then when COVID hit, we expanded to the C-suite to share information about the massive changes that were hitting the scale-ups, and that switched to sometimes bi-weekly or at least weekly events, and we've since grown, as mentioned, to over 450, and nearly 60 of our 65 events were post the first COVID lockdown.
That's amazing. Congratulations on building such large and active network in this regional community. Maybe Bob, I'll continue with you. So how well would you say this network effect has worked, and how has it evolved, and why, what drove those changes, and I guess what benefits do you provide now to help your members with their success?
Yeah, thanks.
Multi-part question.
Yeah, lots to cover there. So we've had a great interaction with the different networks, including the GEDI exchange. So multiple of the GEDI exchange members have also hosted our events. We've tried to focus on having each event hosted by a different CEO, founder, or executive, and there's different communities that we've tried to plug together, including Accelerator Center alumni, Communitech members, some from Mars, CCI, and then each of the connections throughout the Canadian tech ecosystem. And it continues to grow, and we're working to, in addition to the monthly meetings, we have an online member portal to share information in some private groups within them, as well as some more broad groups, and always looking for new ways to collaborate, including using each other's technologies, solutions, and services as building blocks to help accelerate time to market and innovation across the Canadian tech ecosystem.
Right. Thanks, Bob. So, and Bruce, I guess, how has your network evolved, and I guess what do you see driving changes, and how is that going to change the approach you take for your members?
It was terrific to hear Bob's list of accomplishments. It's impressive. We're about a year old here, so we're more of a startup. We're getting going. So a lot of what we're doing at this stage, and what we have been doing, is about socializing the idea and the importance of it. What I will say is that within the industry and within our members, there is tremendous interest and a huge thirst for this kind of work, for the notion of building new connections and discovering new technology solutions and new process answers to problems. The benefits are sort of they're kind of obvious in some ways. You end up with by finding the best solutions wherever they are, you end up with healthier, safer workplaces. You end up with lower costs of production. You end up with lower GHG emissions. But you also have the benefits of this beautiful technology transfer and skills transfer that I think simply stokes the appetite for more. So the tremendous thing that we have going for us is we have an industry and leadership in the industry that is fully on board with this idea of reaching out and making those connections, of making that network effect work for them the way it's worked in other industries and other sectors. And I think we'll be able to turn those into tangible benefits on a horizontal basis for the industry as well.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I think, speaking of the GEDI exchange, so we're relatively new as well. Obviously, only really got kicked off about 6 or 8 months ago, but it's proving to work well, as you're seeing as well with your network. So, we've grown to more than 20 companies and 2 networks yourselves in the GEDI exchange. And I want to give a shout out here to Tom Steckner. So huge credit goes to Tom Steckner on the GEDI team. He's the GEDI client manager that really, he manages the exchange, but more than that, he really looks at how to architect it. And he actually gets to know each and every company. So he's really a master at seeing what, where there could be opportunity and mutual interest, and then connecting those dots, obviously in a manner where he first confirms that each company wants to be introduced to each other. But just as an example, recently there's one example here where he made the introduction between 2 companies in the exchange that are both working in the Industry 4.0 space. And now these 2 companies are exploring together how their technologies and products could complement each other for their mutual customers. So they were really excited to be introduced to each other. I read an article recently in the MIT, it's the Sloan Business School, and it talked about how, Facebook and Google, a lot of these huge platform companies really rely on this network effect. It's kind of their secret sauce. But, the article talked about the quality of the network and so on. But in our case, maybe it's just the early phase that we're at, but I'd also say the active involvement of the network leader is really, really crucial to bring value to the companies as well. So yeah, so with all that said, what kinds of enterprises and people are in your network, and how do they become members? Bob, maybe over to you on that.
A key aspect of that is our shorter term and longer term goals. So one of the things that we identified in some of the peer-to-peer networks is the friction in onboarding folks and connecting folks. So so actually the criteria, there's no cost to be a base level member, and so we're connecting the executives, CEOs, founders, and other executives in these scale-ups. The criteria is they have to have either $1 million in revenue or $1 million in funding. Initially, that was our target was $1 million to $100 million, but with having a number of the larger scale-ups get involved, the CEOs and founders, like John Baker, Jim Estill, et cetera, and as well as some of the unicorns, we changed it to $1 million to $500 million, and then we also have an accelerator for women-led startups or scale-ups, so to doubling the income or revenue, so 500K will qualify if the CEO or founder is a woman, and also if for BIPOC CEOs and founders. So there's not enough of either, as everyone knows, in the tech ecosystem, let alone in leadership in general. So so looking for ways to help with that in terms of the tech for good and growth. So
that's fantastic.
Additional sponsorships and premium capabilities, but that's the entry is minimize the friction and connect up this incredible brain trust.
That's awesome, fantastic. And you may have covered this, Bruce, but where, what kinds of enterprises, how do companies become a member? Are you looking for more members?
Yes, we are, but we have a different model. So I was very impressive again to hear Bob's description. Ours is a different model, though. NII is capitalized by its founding members. So that's a very small core group of companies, of private sector companies that have stood this up. There's always room for it to grow, but they've made a substantial commitment to be members of that. So a lot of the projects we run on the project side of our business are focused on being able to deliver them return on that investment and value for their investment with us. But where we broaden that into a network is through what we call Friends of NII. And that is, again, non-paying connections to people that can actually provide us with the expertise and the assets to run projects. So we don't have friends, and we're not looking for friends just like Facebook friends, just to have them and to claim we have more than others. We're looking for partners who can actually help us deliver on projects and execute on projects, because we're running projects that are higher up the TRL scale. It's not an R&D shop. We're looking for projects that can provide real returns on value today to solve problems that exist now. So to do so, we need to have a broader network of experts, of researchers, of technology providers, solutions providers. So that's how we've reached out. That's why GEDI is a friend of NII. But we also have that in other areas and other sectors, whether that's through the NRC, like research institutes such as the NRC, or through other universities. Well.
Right, you're right. Thank you for explaining that model. That's interesting. We all of us each have a slightly different model. So maybe then, Bruce, where do you see in the next year or two NII going, and what would you define as success for your members?
Success for our members will be more projects that deliver really tangible returns that they can see now. Again, as I said, this is not an R&D operation. It's very much about providing solutions to problems that exist today. So success for us is solving problems for our members who stood us up. But you know, the net zero challenge is one that's going to really it's going to rattle through every industry, every sector, every part of our economy. And we think there are real opportunities for gains to be made there. You know, nuclear is an emissions-free energy source. You know, the electricity it produces is free of emissions. There are other indirect emissions, though, as every energy source has them. Whether you're building wind turbines or solar panels or any other source, there are also sort of knock-on effects. So there are ways to reduce those as well. So I would say that would be if you look at opportunities and room for growth and for new exploration, it would be in that area.
Right. Thank you. I think, you know, just briefly for GEDI, we're really looking obviously to increase the membership and have a but we're doing that to support the university, to support the startups and scale-ups that are affiliated with the university. We want to give them a place where they can tell their story, where they can connect with other companies, as I've mentioned, for possible, you know, commercial benefit. They can connect with like-minded you know, founders, but more so connect obviously with the large corporations that are members of GEDI. But really, and then as they grow, you know, have the ties wherever they land globally, wherever their headquarters or their R&D lands globally, although, you know, we'd love for it to be in Waterloo region, obviously, but we want them to be, maintain that tie back to the university, whether it's for talent or just growing its own ecosystem, as I mentioned, connecting with large companies, conducting research as they grow, if it's a heavy R&D company. There's no cost, as I said, for, you know, a startup to be part of the exchange. So we are really looking, as I said, to grow the membership, but also look at how can we add more value. So one of the things we are going to do is reach out to MIT's startup exchange. So they're far ahead of us. They have around 2,000 MIT startups in their exchange, and they actually have more than 200 companies that are part of their industrial liaison program or their ILP program, which is very similar to the GEDI, the larger GEDI program. So they're very advanced. We're in the early years, so we'll aspire to be like move towards MIT. But I think, you know, it's generally it's not just serendipity. We're trying to engineer the serendipity here. So Bob, over to you if you have any comments there.
Yeah. Just we are, and I know we're limited on time, but looking forward to the growth in the coming year and years, and our plan is to grow to from our 450 currently to 1,000 CEO-P peer-to-peer scale-up ecosystem executives by the end of our second season in August, and also to start leveraging some of the greater good and global footprint, tying together task forces and Planet Canada, the 3 million Canadian expats highlighted by John Stackhouse from Royal Bank, that are around the world as Canada's greatest untapped resource, and tying together the 220,000 UW alumni. And tying into the private-public partnerships, Canada's national digital strategy, and to leverage those Canadian scale-up solutions and services as building blocks. And we've got our next event on Thursday with this Chief Information Security Officer from TELUS, and we'll be also talking about a partnership with a new venture in Bounty, working on business-to-business exchange and a whole range of additional brain trust and projects, including the Scale Up Ecosystem, Executive Applied AI Matching, Rolling Venture Fund, and tying together the Planet Canada allies around the world.
Well, I love hearing all that, the focus on growing Canadian business and being in support of Canadian business. Congrats to you on all that you've done, Bob, and Bruce, with an amazing launch of your network. You know, when all this is over and we can, maybe we can somehow get our networks together in person, or at least have broker some in-person meetings. But I'm excited about, you know, I know it's early days for the three of us in each other's networks. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do together for the members to support the members' success. So unfortunately, we need to stop there because we're going to move on to the Q&A. But I just really want to thank you both, Bob and Bruce, for your amazing your insights and, you know, expertise and stories of success so far. And I hope the audience learned as much as I did about, you know, putting these various networks and network effects and network approaches to use. So I hope you, the audience, can stay for 10 more minutes. We're going to launch into the Q&A now. For those who need to drop off, thank you very much for joining us. And if you'd like to exchange some thoughts with the CEO peer-to-peer or the Nuclear Innovation Institute, please let me know. We'll make sure your contact information isn't shared, but you can reach out to me directly and I'll make the introduction. So our next webinar is on May 18th, and we're going to be discussing instrumenting and sensing rugged and hostile environments rugged and hostile environments of the world. So that's with AOMS and LORCAN. So really excited about that talk, and I hope you can join us definitely for that. So you'll receive a link to register as soon as this when we're done today's session. And, you know, please let us know what you think of this longer format. So hopefully you can stay on for a few more minutes. And now we'll begin the Q&A session. So happy to start that. And I want to thank those in the audience who did submit questions. We received a couple to start with. So I'll start. And Bob and Bruce, please, you know, you're welcome to contribute to the discussion of the question and all at any time, and I'll pitch in from time to time as well. And we'll try and keep it short. 10 minutes isn't very long, and I realize we're already 2 minutes into that. So the first question is, I'm just going to read off here. So so the first question comes to us through the registration system here, and it's addressed to you, Bruce. This party has an interest in SMRs, or small modular reactors, and what their potential is for job creation. They're also wondering whether progress is being made in resolving waste issues, presumably both from this type of reactor, I don't know if it's any different, and the current fleet of CANDU reactors.
I'll take both those really quickly. We tend to look at the challenge of decarbonizing the economy as an opportunity for economic growth. There are obviously some costs in some sectors, but we also think that the transition to a clean energy economy is something that over the next decades will be a driver of growth, and probably creating industries and businesses that we can't even imagine today through the new technologies. SMRs are one of those, and one of the advantages is that they can help decarbonize some of the toughest sectors. The electricity sector in Ontario is quite clean right now. We have a very clean grid, largely thanks to nuclear power, but some of the harder decarbonization work is going to go on in our industrial sectors and in transportation. So SMRs can potentially play a role in very, very high GHG intensive industries and sectors such as steel and that area. So in terms of job creation, I think that answers the question. Basically, just that these are potential job creators, not to mention export markets and so on. On the waste question, I'll just very, very briefly handle it. I mean, every energy source produces different waste. The nuclear sector knows exactly where every bit of waste is generated and it's got it under control and it's accountable for it, which is not the case with many other energy sources, which frankly just pump it into the sky and let us breathe it. So it's know where it is. And the volumes of waste that are involved here that are particularly, that need to be controlled are much smaller than people imagine or assume. So that's really, as a technical challenge, it's really not a huge issue. It's more of a public mindset challenge.
Great. Well, thank you for answering that. So another question came in. Someone said, "Hi, thanks for this program." So you're welcome, whoever that was. And it says, "Bruce, I would be interested to know what you may see as who are the leaders in using IoT to instrument and measure a plant in order to help teams better perform." Actually, I'm going to bend this question to more broadly ask the question that if someone approaches your network wanting to know what capabilities are available, how do you deal with something like this?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but in terms of whether we are engaged, we're very interested in IoT and in the potential for that. And in fact, we're interested in making our facility, which is up in Bruce County, a gateway for that. Among the other parts of our network that we reach out to are the agricultural community here and the municipalities up here, which offer great opportunities for dispersed data like that to be collected and categorized and analyzed. So we're very interested in that process. If there's technical questions about IoT, I'm not the person to ask about that.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, that's fantastic. Great. So, Bob, there was a part B there, Bruce, my apologies, which I didn't mention, but talking about maybe it's, embedding one technology into another, which could, could be the case. And then Bob, what about you? Are there leaders in using IoT? Do you have any comments, Bob, on the previous question?
Well, yeah, there's definitely leaders in IoT and incredible things that are going to be coming out with 5G here in Canada and around the world. And we've a number of our CEO and founder speakers have done some amazing work in that area, including Dan Mathers at 11X, and and it's what's been done at actually a wide range of the companies have had areas that they've worked at that have IoT connections, like Curtis McBride at MileVision and Catalyst 137. But I mean, it's going to affect everyone. And so it's good for everyone to become educated, just like it's important for more people to become educated about the nuclear innovation, because there's so much going to be happening in the future, and it's help us all.
Excellent. Yeah, that very, very true words, Bob. Thank you. We're just about, okay, I think we have a couple of minutes left. So why don't there is another question that came in. So why don't we move to that? And actually, Bob, it's for you. So the CEO peer-to-peer has assembled voices of a number of prominent leaders within their industry. Can you share what you've seen in this setting and how the network effect allows them to come together in order to target opportunities that they might not otherwise be able to target on their own?
Great question. Yeah, one of the things that we see again and again is how one scale up or executive might have expertise in a given area or a solution in a given area, but when you can combine those, there's an incredible multiplier effect, and that can apply both in terms of accelerating time to market, as mentioned earlier, as well as the global impact. Some of our ecosystem partners have done great things internationally, and sharing across to other industries and sharing into other geographies are some of the benefits that you can get by leveraging the connections that you get through peer-to-peer networks like like GEDI and Nuclear Innovation Institute and our CEO peer-to-peer, and we're working with, we're a member of Communitech, and they've got their outpost initiatives around the world, and Accelerator Center partner. Incredible stuff there, and each of them has new CEOs coming in. So Jay just started at the Accelerator Center, got a new CEO starting at Communitech, and then a new president at the University of Waterloo. So there's an incredible growth internationally that we'll be seeing, and we're excited to be a part of it and working with the university on that.
Absolutely, you're spot on, Bob. We're very excited about this as well. It's a change of leadership this year across the board and in our region. So with the, as you said, University AC and Communitech. So it's really I think I don't want to speak for all of us, but I think we're really excited about as we grow, as the network gets more active and grows. I think there's just greater and greater potential for the members, and now that we have each other we're in each other's networks. This idea of kind of a little bit more engineered serendipity, I think, amongst the three of us, and is something we can focus on. So just really want to thank you so much, both of you, Bruce and Bob. Really, your perspectives and experience with your networks. It's very interesting for the three of us, but for hopefully the audience can see where they can tap in and where they can benefit or partner and so on. So want to thank you very, very much for joining today. It was really an honor to be able to spend a bit of time with you. And so if anyone in the audience wants to exchange some thoughts with NII or CEO peer-to-peer, just please let me know. You can find my contact information on the GEDI website. And so our next, as I said, our next upcoming webinar is on May 18th. And it is on the topic of instrumenting and sensing in rugged and hostile environments of the world with AOMS technologies and LoRaWAN technologies. And these are companies that are affiliated with the university and that they launched in some way out of the university. They're a faculty member. Generally, when I say affiliated, it's a faculty member, grad student, undergrad student, alumnus, staff. In some way, the founder or the technology is affiliated with the university or the science. So thank you so much, everyone. That's a wrap. We're a couple of minutes over. Really look forward to seeing everyone next month. Everything is advertised through our GEDI LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. So website. So please check there and look forward to seeing you then. And this wraps our session for today. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks very much.
Reach out on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.